Okay, so picture this. I'm drowning. Not the oh my god, I accidentally stepped off the diving board kind of drowning. This was the giant ship sinking beneath me. Icy water closing in. Lungs screaming for air kind of drowning. Not exactly a day at the beach, you know? The water was freezing, like someone had dumped a million ice cubes down my throat. Every breath was a struggle. Every movement, a desperate fight against the crushing weight of the ocean. The darkness was absolute, like being trapped in a black hole. The only light, the faint eerie glow of the sinking ship above me. Panic clawed at me. A primal fear that threatened to consume me. My heart hammered against my ribs. My lungs screamed for air. My limbs thrashed uselessly against the unforgiving water. I was sinking, and no one was coming to save me. And as the icy water filled my lungs, as the darkness closed in, as the last vestiges of hope flickered and died, my mind drifted back to a childhood filled with sunshine and shadows, laughter and tears, love and neglect. I remembered the birthday parties, the ones where Emma, my perfect little sister, was always the center of attention. She'd be the one with the fancy cake, the mountain of presents, the adoring crowd singing happy birthday just for her. Me? I'd be the one in the corner, the one with the store-bought cupcakes, the single hastily wrapped gift, the one who was invisible. I remembered the school plays, the ones where Emma always got the lead role, the spotlight, the applause, the adoration. Me? I'd be the one in the chorus, the one with the single forgettable line, the one who blended into the background, the one who was overlooked. I remembered the family vacations, the ones where Emma always got the window seat, the one with the view, the souvenirs, the special treatment. Me? I'd be the one stuck in the middle seat, the one with cramped legs, the forgotten luggage, the one who was an afterthought. And I remembered the countless little moments, the everyday interactions that chipped away at my self-worth, the ones that made me feel like I was less than, the casual comparisons, the subtle favoritism, the unspoken message that I was not enough. Emma's so talented, my mother would say, her voice filled with pride, as Emma performed her latest piano recital. Her fingers danced across the keys, the notes filling the room with beautiful music. Me? I'd be the one sitting in the audience, my fingers tracing the worn keys of my own neglected piano, the music silent, the applause non-existent. Valeria, why can't you be more like Emma? My father would ask, his voice laced with disappointment, as I brought home another average report card. My grades? Decent but not exceptional. My efforts? Unnoticed. Emma, of course, would be the one with the straight A's, the glowing teacher's comments, the effortless perfection. And as I sank deeper into the icy depths, as the memories flooded my mind, as the last vestiges of life slipped away, I realized I wasn't just drowning in water. I was drowning in neglect, in indifference, in their love for Emma. And in that moment, as the darkness consumed me, as the cold embraced me, as the last breath escaped my lips, I made a promise to myself, a vow whispered into the unforgiving depths. If I ever get another chance, I swore, my voice a silent echo in the vastness of the ocean, I won't beg for their love. I'll make them regret losing me. Okay, so the cruise? It was supposed to be a dream vacation. A chance for our family to reconnect, to bond, to, well, maybe finally see me. I know. I was probably setting myself up for disappointment. But hey, a girl can dream, right? The ship was like a floating palace, all gleaming chrome, plush carpets, and sparkling chandeliers. There were multiple pools, gourmet restaurants, a casino, a spa, and even a mini golf course. It was the kind of place where you could easily forget about the real world, about your problems, about your family. Except, of course, when your family was the problem. Emma naturally was in her element. She'd claimed the best cabin, the one with the balcony and the ocean view, while I was stuck in a windowless room that felt more like a closet than a stateroom. She'd spent the first day lounging by the pool, sipping exotic cocktails, and flirting with the cute bartender, while I wandered around the ship, feeling like a lost puppy, trying to find my place, my purpose. My parents? As usual, oblivious to my struggles. They were too busy doting on Emma. Emma, darling, my mother would gush. You look absolutely stunning in that swimsuit. You should be a model. Emma, sweetheart, my father would say. You're such a natural with people. You could charm the birds out of the trees. Me? I was just there. The invisible one. The afterthought. The one who blended into the background. The one who was, well, let's just say I wasn't exactly winning any Miss Congeniality awards. I tried to connect with them, to join their conversations, to be part of the family, but it was like trying to break into a private club where I wasn't a member. They'd smile politely, nod vaguely, and then go back to their enchanted world, leaving me feeling like an outsider, an intruder, a ghost. But hey, desperate times call for desperate measures, right? I took a deep breath, the salty air filling my lungs, and a strange sense of calm settled over me. I was alive. I was alone. And I was surprisingly not entirely freaking out. This island, this deserted, forgotten piece of land in the middle of nowhere, was my new reality. And I was going to make the most of it. I was going to survive. I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to do. But I knew one thing. I wasn't going to give up. Not now. Not ever. They might have left me to drown, but I was going to show them. I was going to show the world that Valeria Langford was more than just an afterthought. More than just a forgotten daughter. More than just a victim. I was a survivor. And this island, this unexpected, unwanted challenge, was just the beginning of my story. Turns out, survival mode isn't as glamorous as it looks on TV. Those survivor contestants make it look all build a fire, catch a fish, win $1 million. Let me tell you, it's not that easy, especially when you're a city girl whose idea of roughing it is a weekend without room service. My first challenge? Shelter. I mean, sleeping on the beach under the stars sounds romantic and all, until you realize that stars also mean mosquitoes the size of hummingbirds and creepy crawlies that go bump in the night. So I set about building a shelter, armed with nothing but my bare hands, some leftover determination, and a vague memory of a documentary I'd once seen about wilderness survival. Let's just say my first attempt was less than successful. Picture a pile of palm leaves and branches that looked more like a giant bird's nest than a shelter. It collapsed on me in the middle of the night, leaving me exposed to the elements, the mosquitoes, and let's just say I didn't get much sleep. Next up? Food. I'd always been a picky eater, the no vegetables, extra sauce kind of girl. But suddenly my options were limited to whatever I could find, and whatever wouldn't kill me. I tried berries, which turned out to be surprisingly tasty and thankfully non-poisonous. I attempted to catch fish, which resulted in more near-drowning experiences than actual catches. And I even resorted to eating bugs, which, let me tell you, is not as crunchy and delicious as it sounds on those survival shows. Then there was the water situation. Turns out, drinking straight from the ocean is not a good idea. Who knew? I learned that the hard way after a particularly desperate gulp left me feeling more dehydrated and nauseous than ever. So I set about collecting rainwater, using whatever containers I could find. Coconut shells, empty bottles, even my own shoes. Don't judge. I was desperate. The island, my supposed tropical paradise, was actually a relentless test of my resilience, my resourcefulness, and my gag reflex. The sun beat down mercilessly. The humidity was suffocating. And the bugs, oh God, the bugs. They were everywhere. Biting, stinging, crawling, and generally making my life miserable. I had near-death experiences on a daily basis. I almost fell off a cliff trying to reach a particularly tempting-looking mango. I almost got bitten by a snake while searching for firewood. And let's just say I had a close encounter with a particularly territorial crab that left me with a bruised ego and a newfound respect for crustaceans. But through it all, I kept going. I learned from my mistakes, adapted to my environment, and slowly, painfully started to, not exactly thrive but definitely survive. I built a more stable shelter using salvaged materials from the shipwreckage that washed ashore. I figured out how to build a fire using the friction method, which, let me tell you, is a lot harder than it looks. And I even managed to catch a fish using a sharpened stick and a whole lot of patience. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't glamorous. And it definitely wasn't comfortable. But it was life. My life. The life I was determined to live. Despite the odds. Despite the challenges. Despite the fact that my parents had left me to drown. They might have chosen Emma. But I was choosing myself. And that, I realized, was the most important choice of all. Turns out, I'm a surprisingly adaptable creature. I still miss my Netflix binges and my extra-large lattes, but I was starting to get the hang of this whole living off the land thing. It was like a weird, extreme version of The Amazing Race. Except instead of exotic locations and annoying teammates, I had a deserted island and, well, myself. My shelter evolved from that pathetic pile of leaves to something resembling an actual dwelling. I used salvaged wood from the ship wreckage, along with palm leaves and vines, to build a small but sturdy hut. It wasn't exactly Buckingham Palace, but it kept me dry during the rainstorms and offered some protection from the creepy crawlies. Food became less of a what can I stomach situation and more of a what can I hunt, slaughter, salt, trick into my makeshift traps kind of deal. I discovered that certain types of seaweed were actually quite tasty, if you ignore the slimy texture. I learned how to identify edible plants, thanks to a tattered survival guide I'd found in the ship's debris. And I even managed to catch a few fish using a combination of sharpened sticks, woven vines, and sheer determination. Let's just say, catch and release wasn't exactly my motto. Tools were another challenge. No Home Depot on this island, unfortunately. But I'm resourceful, remember? I used sharp rocks for cutting, coconut shells for bowls and cups, and even fashioned a makeshift knife out of a piece of broken glass. MacGyver would have been proud. Okay, maybe not proud, but at least mildly impressed. But the biggest transformation wasn't physical. It was mental. I was becoming stronger, more resilient, more self-sufficient. I wasn't just surviving. I was adapting, learning, growing. The island, once a symbol of my isolation, my abandonment, my everything gone wrong, was now becoming my teacher, my mentor, my home. I was no longer the pampered, privileged girl who'd been overlooked and underestimated. I was Valeria, the survivor, the resourceful one, the one who could build a shelter, find food, craft tools, and basically kick butt in any survival situation. I was becoming a warrior, a fighter, a force to be reckoned with. And as I looked out at the vast ocean, the endless horizon, the possibilities stretching before me, I knew this was just the beginning. Bring it on, ocean. Bring it on, world. I was Valeria, and I was unstoppable. I saw my parents, their faces no longer filled with anger or disappointment but with regret. They apologized, they begged for forgiveness, they told me they loved me, but it was just a hallucination, a cruel trick of my desperate mind. I thought about giving up, letting the ocean have me, surrendering to the inevitable. But then I'd remember the island, the challenges I'd overcome, the strength I'd discovered within myself, and I'd find a flicker of defiance, a spark of resilience that refused to be extinguished. And then just when I was about to give up, when the last vestiges of hope were fading away, when I was sure that the ocean was finally going to claim me, I saw it, a light on the horizon, a faint glimmer in the distance, a ship. I don't know how I found the strength to wave, to shout, to make myself seen, but I did. And they saw me, they saw the tiny raft, the lone figure clinging to life, the survivor. The rescue was a blur. I remember being pulled aboard the ship, wrapped in warm blankets, offered food and water, and finally feeling safe. I was alive. I'd survived against all odds, against all expectations, against everything. And as I looked back at the vast ocean, the endless horizon, the challenges I'd faced, I knew I wasn't just a survivor anymore. I was something more. I was unbreakable. Okay, so picture this. I'm rescued, right, pulled aboard this giant ship, wrapped in blankets, given warm soup, the whole 9 yards. I was expecting a quiet return to civilization, maybe a few days of rest and relaxation before I had to face the real world again. Boy, was I wrong. Turns out my little lost at sea, survived against all odds story was kind of a big deal, like a really big deal. The ship I was rescued by, it wasn't just any ship, it was a cruise liner packed with tourists, many of whom had witnessed the sinking of my ship. They'd seen the chaos, the panic, the moment my parents chose Emma, and they'd seen me clinging to life, disappearing beneath the waves. So when I was pulled aboard, it wasn't just a rescue, it was a revelation. The girl who survived, they whispered, the daughter who was left behind. The story spread like wildfire, fueled by social media, news outlets, and good old-fashioned gossip. By the time we reached port, I was a celebrity. Paparazzi were waiting, news crews were clamoring for interviews, and my phone, which miraculously still worked, was blowing up with messages from everyone, people I knew, people I didn't know, even people I'd actively tried to avoid in high school. Suddenly everyone was my best friend. The media frenzy was insane. Every news station, every newspaper, every website was running my story. The drowning daughter, the miracle survivor, the girl who defied the ocean. They even had hashtags, #Valeria Strong, #SurvivorGirl, #Never Give Up. I was trending, people trending. I did interviews, lots of them. I told my story, the real story, the raw, unfiltered version, the sinking ship, the storm, the sharks, the island, the choice my parents made. I didn't hold back, didn't sugarcoat anything, I just told the truth, and the world listened. They were captivated by my story, inspired by my resilience, outraged by my parents' actions. The public opinion turned against them quickly, and they became villains in my narrative. Then came the vlog. My publicist, yes, I suddenly had a publicist, suggested I start a vlog, a way to connect with people, to share my experiences, to control the narrative. It was a brilliant idea. I started filming, sharing the raw details of my survival journey, the highs, the lows, the really gross parts. One showed them my makeshift shelter, my fishing techniques or lack thereof, my encounters with the local wildlife, including that territorial crab. I shared my journal entries, my thoughts, my fears, my triumphs. People connected with me with my honesty, my vulnerability, my ordinariness. I wasn't some superhero, some mythical creature. I was just Valeria, a girl who'd been through hell and back, and who'd come out stronger, more resilient, more herself. My vlog blew up. Millions of people followed me, inspired by my strength, my perseverance, my refusal to give up. They called me a role model, an icon, an inspiration. I was getting fan mail, actual letters, gifts, even marriage proposals, which, let's be honest, were a little creepy. I was no longer the invisible girl, the forgotten daughter, the afterthought. I was Valeria Langford, the survivor, the icon, the legend, and it was kind of surreal. I was invited to talk shows, conferences, even the United Nations. I was meeting celebrities, politicians, and basically everyone who was anyone. My life had gone from 0 to 100 in a matter of weeks. And then the ultimate moment of poetic justice. My parents saw me on TV, they saw my interviews, they saw my vlog, they saw the truth. The world now knew what they'd done, how they'd chosen Emma over me, how they'd left me to drown, how they'd never even tried to search for me. The internet turned against them, people hated them, they were called monsters, selfish, heartless. The public backlash was swift, brutal. And let's just say they weren't exactly winning any Parent of the Year awards, and me, I didn't say a word to defend them. I didn't need to. The world knew the truth, and they could live with it. Okay, so Hollywood came calling, not literally of course, but pretty close. My publicist, who by the way was now my best friend and basically the sister I never had, informed me that my story was a hot property, a guaranteed blockbuster, a license to print money. Apparently everyone wanted a piece of the Valeria Langford pie. Producers, directors, screenwriters, they were all lining up, eager to turn my life into a movie, a TV show, a Broadway musical. Okay, maybe not that last one, but one name stood out from the rest. Lucas Carter, the director, the genius, the visionary, the guy who made those gritty, realistic movies that made you think and feel. And sometimes want to take a shower afterwards. He wasn't your typical Hollywood type. He was intense, brooding, and a little bit intimidating. He showed up at my apartment not with the entourage of assistants and yes men, but alone, his eyes sharp, his expression skeptical. He didn't gush, didn't flatter, didn't even really smile. He just looked at me like he was trying to see through me, to figure out if I was the real deal or just another media creative myth. So he said, his voice low, gravy, "You're Valeria Langford, the girl who survived." "That's me," I said, trying to sound casual but feeling a little bit flustered. "And you expect me to believe this story?" He asked, his eyes narrowed, his skepticism evident. "It's the truth," I said, my voice firm, my gaze unwavering. "The truth?" He scoffed. "It sounds like something out of a Hollywood movie, too perfect, too unbelievable." "I assure you it's real," I said, my voice rising slightly. "I lived it, prove it." He challenged, his eyes locking with mine. "And that's how it started, our complicated relationship." He questioned everything, challenged every detail, pushed me to prove my story, my strength, my authenticity. He wanted the raw truth, the gritty details, the emotional core of my experience. He made me revisit the island in my memories, in my dreams, in my nightmares. He made me relive the storm, the sinking, the choice my parents made. He made me confront my pain, my anger, my vulnerability. It was intense, exhausting, and strangely liberating. He wasn't just making a movie, he was helping me heal, helping me understand, helping me become. And somewhere along the way, amidst the challenges, the arguments, the shared passion for the truth, let's just say we started to see each other not just as director and subject, but as something more. It was complicated, messy, and undeniably exciting. He was everything. I wasn't cynical, skeptical, and a little bit jaded, but he was also brilliant, passionate, and surprisingly kind. And as we worked together, as we delved deeper into my story, as we fell in love, I realized he wasn't just making a movie about my survival, he was making a movie about my rebirth. Okay, so making a movie, it's not as glamorous as it sounds. Sure, there were moments of excitement, like when we filmed the shipwreck scene with a giant replica of the cruise liner, and a wave pool that could rival the Pacific Ocean, but mostly it was long days, endless takes, and a whole lot of waiting around. Lucas, the director, was in his element. He was a perfectionist, a control freak, a genius. He pushed everyone to their limits, demanding the best, the most authentic, the most emotionally raw performance. Me, I was learning. Acting wasn't exactly my forte, but Lucas saw something in me, a spark, a truthfulness that he wanted to capture on film. He coached me, challenged me, pushed me to basically relive my trauma for the sake of art. It was intense, exhausting, and strangely therapeutic. Our relationship, meanwhile, was evolving. We weren't just director and subject anymore, we were partners in crime, in art, and well, in life. We argued, we debated, let's just say we weren't exactly your typical lovey-dovey couple. But there was a passion there, a connection, a shared understanding that went beyond the movie. The filming took us all over the world. We recreated the island, the storm, the whole damn journey. We filmed in exotic locations, battled unpredictable weather, and even had a few close encounters with the local wildlife, including a particularly amorous monkey who took a liking to Lucas's camera equipment. The movie, as it started to take shape, was it was amazing, raw, powerful, and surprisingly emotional. It wasn't just a survival story, it was a story about family, betrayal, resilience, and let's just say it had a few tearjerker moments. The buzz around the movie was growing, the trailers went viral, the interviews generated headlines, and the premiere, let's just say it was the hottest ticket in town. Everyone wanted to see theory story of Valeria Langford, the girl who survived, the daughter who was left behind, the woman who defied the odds. And as the premiere date approached, as the excitement mounted, as the world held its breath, I realized this wasn't just a movie anymore, it was a movement, a testament to the human spirit, a celebration of resilience, a middle finger to all the people who'd ever underestimated me, overlooked me, or left me to drown. Okay, so the premiere, it was insane. Red carpet, flashing lights, screaming fans, the whole Hollywood shebang. I was wearing a designer dress, which, let's be honest, felt a little weird after months of living in rags. My hair and makeup were done by professionals who somehow managed to make me look human after all that sun and salt water, and I was kind of freaking out. The movie was amazing, even better than I'd imagined. The audience laughed, they cried, they even gasped in all the right places. Lucas, the genius, had captured my story perfectly, the raw emotion, the gritty details, the triumph of the human spirit. And then it happened. As the credits rolled, as the applause thundered through the theater, I saw them, my parents, standing in the back, their faces a mixture of, it was hard to tell, shame, regret, maybe even a flicker of pride. They approached me, their steps hesitant, their eyes pleading. Valeria, my mother, said, her voice trembling, we're so sorry, we made a terrible mistake, can you ever forgive us? My father, his face etched with years of regret, simply nodded, his eyes filled with, let's just say they weren't filled with the usual arrogance and indifference. I looked at them, my parents, the people who'd given me life, but who'd also kind of tried to take it away. I felt a surge of not anger, not resentment, but a kind of sadness, a sadness for the family we could have been, the love we could have shared, the support I'd always craved. But then I remembered the island, the storm, the sharks, the choice they'd made, and I realized I didn't need their forgiveness, I didn't need their love, I didn't need them. I don't know, I said, my voice quiet but firm, maybe someday, but not today. And with that I turned and walked away, leaving them standing there, their faces etched with, let's just say they weren't exactly beaming with joy. The cameras caught it all, of course, the dramatic reunion, the tearful apology, the ultimate rejection, the headline scream, the internet exploded, and my parents, they became the poster children for parental failure. But that wasn't my focus, I had bigger things to worry about. My career was taking off, my vlog was more popular than ever, and Lucas, let's just say our relationship was definitely not boring. I was living my life on my own terms, without apologies, without regrets, without them, and it was amazing. I wasn't just a survivor anymore, I was a success, an inspiration, a force to be reckoned with. And as I looked out at the world, the endless possibilities stretching before me, I knew I was exactly where I was supposed to be. The island, the storm, the sharks, the whole damn ordeal, it had all been a test I'd passed with flying colors, and now I was ready for the next chapter, the next adventure, the next everything, because I was Valeria Langford and I was unstoppable.